So let's talk about covering your book. So I'm at the place where I've attached my covers and my spine together. One additional thing that you can do is you can cut out a little bit or add to the, like I said, I call the window, where I took an X-Acto knife. I drew out the shape that I wanted, took an X-Acto knife, and I cut that out. That does add a little bit, you know, extra steps to your book, but if you don't want that there, you don't have to. I just think it's kind of neat to see some of the paper coming through. For an example, this was my very first book that I ever made. The cover has fabric on it, and then I screen printed a design on it. And then on the inside, I have my pattern paper. So these are my signatures that I made. But I created a rather large window because I think that's kind of adds to the beauty of the book to have a really nice big window here so I can see some of those pages a little bit more. So it's really aesthetically up to you. So what I've done is I've taken some of the pattern paper that was like a 12 by 18. I cut it in half on the paper cutter to 9 by 12. So I cut it in half. And I'm going to use each one of these for the cover on the outside. So what I'm looking to do, see how I would put this. Now, I could put it this way. Let's see, I could do it this way, and then I would have to have a second piece that overlaps, which is what I did here. If I don't want to add that element, you can take your design and take it all the way to the spine of the book and to your outer edges. It's really up to you. For me, what I did is I pulled it a little further back and then added a piece of paper that covers all this just to make it a little more interesting. So let's say that I've decided to go to the spine, but I'm still going to overlap it later. So I have my paper backwards, and then I have the inside of my book is open, and then, you know, the front's on the other side. But I like marking the paper not on the stuff, you know, not parts of the paper that are showing. So what I'm doing is I'm lining up with the spine, and then I want to make sure that I have an inch all the way around my book. So I want to make sure there's an inch all the way around. Now you can measure or you can just eye it, but I always try and make sure there's at least an inch. So if I'm looking here on this side, I could just line up a ruler, make it easier for myself, and just mark it. And so this is what I need to remove here. Now you could just include it in the design, but sometimes I don't like having too much paper on top of other paper, and then it wants to kind of buckle up. So it's really up to you. Just makes folding a little bit easier. So you can hand cut this, or you can use the paper cutter. So I took that little piece off. And now I'm going to glue this to my board here. So I have special bookbinding glue. This is called, it's a PVA glue. It's specially made for bookbinding. So when paper and paper come together with this glue, it's not meant to separate. So I'm gonna put a little bit on my cover here because it's glue. I'm not gonna use a nice brush. I'm gonna use a foam brush, and I'm gonna cover this entire cover with glue. And then I'm going to turn it over and lay it on top of my pattern paper. Attach it like this. And then I'm going to want to fold these over so that I don't see any of the paper on the edges. So there's a couple different folds you can do. I've seen for some people that really get into bookmaking, I learned that you can fold it from the corner. So let's see what that looks like. So fold it from the corner here, and then you can fold this side over, and then this side, and you can get a nice fold that way if you like the looks of that. Sometimes what I do instead of that is I cut out this little corner here. The only bad thing I notice is sometimes the corner will pop out of the folded paper there, but if I'm also cutting it, sometimes that same thing happens. So really it's up to you. So I'm going to attach glue to all of these corners and then fold over my printed pages.